I want to recognize Esther Katiba. Actually, that's how the connection to today's conversation came about. Zipporah was in attendance of another conversation we had, the CEO's conversation. I'm also here with Jedida Mwende, who is in charge of our corporate responsibility, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation. Allow me to share. For those of you who might not have encountered me, I want to say that I would hope that we can use the chat box to ask as many questions and to also interact, because we are not such a big number. I think that's a good space for us to be able to interact and make this session quite a worthwhile one. So I don't know if you're all in agreement on that. I wish this had polls. I would have asked a question to see if there are polls, and see how people are going to respond. But this is Chiromo Hospital Group, as you can be able to see. Sorry, can you see the next slide? Oh, yes. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Zipporah. I'll just continue. We do have 6 hospitals actually currently. We have 2 in Lavington, 2 in Westlands, opened another one in Mombasa, and we are just in the process of setting up. It's actually already set up in service, but an outpatient center in Upper Hill. That in itself goes to tell you that there's a need for mental health services. But even more importantly, is to engage in conversations of promotion and prevention where mental illness is concerned, rather than waiting for worst case scenario to treat individuals. We are guided by the vision, as you can see, and the core values of respect, honesty, innovation, and reliability, ensuring that with every patient we see, that we do observe recovery in dignity. Allow me to go straight into today's conversation, just looking at a few key facts first, and maybe Naomi, hi, Geoffrey, can please mute. So as we look at some key facts, we have 91 million working days. 91 million working days are lost in a year due to mental illness. Imagine that. 91 million working days, of which we have 76% of workers believing that their company should be doing more to support mental health of their workplace. 78% of those workforce say the pandemic has negatively affected their mental health. Now we are in a post place, but there is still a lot that needs to be done. 85% of people say their mental health issues are causing sleep deprivation, poor physical health, reduction in happiness where home is concerned, and suffering of relationships, both at home and with friends. 85%. That is the reality. Looking more at key facts, whereas we do recognize that work is very important as part of an individual's overall and holistic well-being, it can also negatively affect us, leading to mental illnesses and mental issues. Actually, studies show that if individuals are in a work environment that is so toxic, that is so stressful for them, those people are likely, 3 times more likely to develop a mental illness. And which mental illness? They'll trigger depression or anxiety. You can imagine that 3 times more likely than the average person. 82% of workers with a diagnosed mental illness do not inform their workplace managers of their conditions. I'm having this conversation with HRs and IHRM, and I'm glad maybe you can also be able to confirm how many people confidently feel confident enough to come and say, I have a mental illness or I'll have a mental health problems and I need support. Just today I was in a session with somebody who we really want to support. They really want the support and they are ready to get the care. But the stigma, the fear that they have of just informing their workplace that they need to go to a rehab, it's so much that they are willing to risk their own well-being just for those few days at work. Yet, if that person continues to work under the conditions that they are in, eventually even that work, they are not going to be able to do it. So I'm hoping that even as we continue with creating awareness, continue having this conversation, that we can create an environment safe enough, free of stigma and discrimination. Okay, so depression and anxiety have a significant economic impact. The estimated cost to the global economy is $1 trillion per year in lost productivity. Imagine $1 trillion in lost productivity. Harassment and bullying at work are commonly reported problems and can have a substantial adverse on an individual's mental health. I was saying in another conversation that the human resource management, the human resource workforce, those are the individuals who are supposed to be the lawyers of the employees. But are they truly, are you able to protect people against harassment and against bullying? And more so if it comes even from more senior managers than horizontal. Are we able to do that? Okay. There are many effective actions that organizations can take to promote mental health in the workplace, and such efforts benefit productivity, increase productivity. Lastly, for every $1 that we put into scaled up treatment for common mental disorders, there is a return of $4 in improved health and productivity. So this is actually very, very important. So when we look at mental health, we are talking about wellness, but let's look at health, mental health in general. We say that it's the state of well-being, overall well-being. And there are 4 key points. I hope you have a pen and a paper. Write this down, okay? So the number 1, we say that every individual is able to realize their own potential. Just ask yourself, since this is virtual, have I realized my own potential? Am I my best self? Am I where I'm supposed to be? And then 2, we say that that individual is able to cope with daily life stresses. I love that statement personally, because that's just a constant reminder that, okay, stress is part and parcel of our lives. You're going to meet hurdles here and there as you go through life, even as HRs, even with your team. Yeah, so how are you able to deal with the stress? If you're able to deal with the stress, then you're experiencing good mental health. But if you're not able to deal with stress, Nelly, please mute. Nelly, please mute. Patrick, is this Patrick? Please send him a message. If we are not able to deal with the daily life stressors, that is what we contribute to poor mental health. Okay. The third thing is being fruitful and productive. That's where work comes. Could we please request Patrick Mayo to mute? Okay, thank you, Patrick. Okay, thank you, host, for muting everybody. I think we can use that, okay? Being fruitful and productive every day. By the end of your work day, are you able to feel, okay, I have been doing what I'm supposed to do. I feel productive. I have been fruitful throughout this day. And the last part is to make a positive contribution within the community. I want to challenge all of us to know and understand that the best version of yourself, the place where we get self-actualization at the top, is where you're able to make a contribution. Life is way much bigger than you as an individual. So go out of your way to make a contribution For those of you who are scholars and readers, or if you just want to look it up, you can look at the impact of altruism. And studies show that people who are able to be selfless in terms of giving back to the community, they're able to experience better quality of life. Generally, that's what mental health is. And health, there is no health without mental health. The same way we take time to look at our physical health. Yeah, it's the same way we should look at our mental health. If at all anything, the brain, being the engine, is the one that directs the body. So if your brain is under stress, it will communicate through the body. The body is an alarm system. So your brain is overwhelmed, the communication is a headache. The communication is a backache. The communication is you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, your mood is everywhere. It's irritable or sad or low. That is a communication. But we don't really realize that because sometimes it happens in small doses. You get a headache here and there, you pop a maramoja and you're okay. But for some individuals, if you don't address those little things, or if you don't address the root cause of that headache, especially if it's a stressor, then there's a bigger looming crisis that is underneath. So that's what I want to note. The brain is an engine. Everything has to start with the engine and ensuring that you're taking care of yourself in that way. The next thing I want us to look at is now in the workplace. Of all the general triggers for mental illnesses, stress is at the top of the list. Okay, and stress can both be positive and negative stress, but workplace stress is actually quite significant. Why is it quite significant? Because we spend a third of our lives in the work environment. And I like to joke and say, yeah, I mean, ideally it should be 8 hours, but truthfully, we actually do 16 to 14 hours. You're still working way more than those 8 hours. And when you're not working, you've carried work at home. If not physical, you've carried work in your head. You're still trying to problem solve. You've carried that employee in your head. You're still trying to, figure out that issue. So that continues. So then it makes the workplace stress be way longer than it actually should be. So job stress is basically harmful physical and emotional responses that occur when the requirements of the job do not match the capabilities, resources, or the needs of the worker. Stress is basically a response. And remember, we have different responses. There are those people who freeze, there are those people who fight, and then there are those people who run away. Okay, so it's still the same way in terms of trying to manage. Do you actually get stuck on that place? Do you actually try to block and avoid the stressors, or are you an engager? You're going to engage that stress and look for a solution and tackle that solution. Where are you? Like we said, we have good stress and we have bad stress. However, good stress can quickly turn into bad stress if we are not very keen. Good stress is usually like what? Like if you get a new baby, if you get a new job, if you get a promotion, that's good stress. Okay, if you're going for an interview, that's good stress. And anything that you're preparing for, exams, that's usually good stress. We call that eustress. Okay, but this is just to show you also the progression as well. I know a lot of people usually sometimes want to think that I wish I would be in a space where I'm not stressed. No, your brain actually needs that level of stress to be able to be productive, because if you're not engaged, if your brain is not triggered in any way in terms of engagement, that level of inactivity is actually not very good. Okay, so you can see if somebody has too little stress, also their performance is not as good. You're not even prompted to think outside the box. We come up with better solutions because of our ability to problem solve, and you can't problem solve if you've not had problems. That's just how life is. Okay, so that also continues to progress until we get to optimum stress. There is still a certain level where when you reach and you're not able to reduce that level of stress, now you start going downwards into exhaustion and eventually a breakdown. If stress is not addressed, it will quickly actually progress to a mental illness. Okay, so most of us wait until we're on this other side of the scale for us to be able to start, seeking help. It has to be when you feel, okay, this is optimal. And that's when the physical issues begin to show up. Okay, so too much stress is also not good because it leads to burnout. The International Classification of Disease, latest version 11, has classified burnout as a syndrome. I am in a physical hospital, at our hospital. I can tell you 100%, we see so many people because of Hapanakule syndrome. You've come, you've been tested, all tests are negative. Yeah, when they are sent my way, you realize, oh my God. Sorry, I was muted. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you, Kadoni.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so you realize it, work pressure. This person has been going through a lot of work pressure. And at some point, I have to tell people, you need to make a decision because this is about you. This is about your mental health. And I confidently like to say, if it costs you your mental health, then it's too expensive. Because if you're not okay, everything around you is going to be affected in one way or another. Okay? So if you're looking for stress indicators in an employee, they show up sometimes in very subtle ways. Okay, so this employee has been taking too many sick leaves, absenteeism. They've been coming late, trying to leave early. Every time it's almost like somebody was waiting for 5, so that they dash out. When you look at the performance, their performance has also gone down. If you are able to be close enough proximity, you'll find that, okay, this person, I think they've been smoking, or they went and smoked and came back, or they've been drinking, or, we have the classic people in every organization that have to take 6 cups of coffee. Yeah, those people who just are consuming coffee. These are just ways to try and figure out how to cope. And the question I like to ask, if your patterns have changed, if there's an increase, then ask yourself, why have I increased my consumption? Because you are not born taking 6 cups of coffee, 3 cups of coffee. So why have I increased? The same to alcohol and cigarettes and any other substances. All right. So that continues. I can see that's repeated, but those are some of the key small indicators. Another indicator would be in terms of mood, irritability. So you find that this employee, all the time they are either being reported, or you're also observing they're in an altercation with one person or the other. The worst case scenario is obviously by the time it's getting to you as a HR, just know usually it's a worst case scenario. As employees, people try so much to cover each other, to hide each other. So by the time it's getting to the top, just know this has been an issue that has been there continuously. Okay, if you're looking at a group, then you'll be able to see the language, the behavior of people. In that group, there's a lot of dissatisfaction, constant disputes. Definitely, the turnover will be high. And I keep saying, when the turnover is high, it's okay. Let me not say between good and bad employees, but when the turnover is high, it's the cream de la cream of people who are leaving, because maybe their options are better. So the ones who remain behind are also probably sometimes not as productive, or the people who've been going through the cracks. Okay, you'll find that the number of complaints has also gone high, increased grievances. Okay, and usually looking at complaints, if you've ever held a town hall meeting, this is usually standard. You'll hear these are the constant complaints that come about. Okay, so either somebody is feeling they have no control, there's too much work. We have a special category of people who feel, I can do better, I'm underutilized. Yeah, I've reached the ceiling of this role. that I play. I wish I could have more. There are some organization that is possible, some organization that is not possible. Either way, it will still cause frustration for that person. Yeah. Workload, when your workload is too high, also when you have high uncertainty. So if a work employee does not have good job description, then you'll find that the roles are not really defined. And because of that, there is lack of priorities and targets. If there is job insecurity, and usually job insecurity comes in organizations that don't have proper and solid policies. If they're not proper and solid policies, then job insecurity comes in. I'm talking in a case where you're in an organization and you can be sacked on the spot because of something that happened. So it's always important to keep reassuring individuals of job security, at least as much as you can, because the employees that you have within the work environment, that is the army, including the people who work for you in other spaces like your home, that is your army. And you can be a good leader, you can be a good boss, you can be a good person in your home, but if you're not able to support your army, then that will show up in terms of the productivity of work. So looking at working conditions, the environment where people sit, that's very, very important. And definitely what is the culture of that organization. And culture comes all the way from the top to the bottom. It's passed down and continuously emphasized, yeah, because new employees keep joining. When they join, are they able to be taken through a training? Are they inducted well into the culture of an organization? Okay, and taking note about undervaluing the employees that you have. So this is what we're talking about, because if those things are not addressed, if the stress is not addressed, if the sources are not addressed, and somebody continuously, and maybe they don't have enough internal resources to deal with the workplace stress, then it can quickly trigger a mental illness. Okay, this is the trigger, and not just for workplace. I hope that you can take this as an example of also other stressors. For example, if you're in a relationship that is unhealthy, whether it's intimate relationship, whether it's your family, whether it's with your friends, as long as you're experiencing a certain form of stressor and you're not able to deal or cope with that stressor, it will still develop into and trigger a mental illness. All right. Consequences of mental health problems, as we've talked about, this is what exactly you're going to see. So I want us to look at this three-pronged approach to workplace mental wellness. One, protection, promotion, and support. Okay. You as HR managers, the culture that is there, the individuals that is there, are they able to promote positive mental health within? Are there champions in those workplaces? Do you have constant mental health conversation? Are you normalizing this conversation? Are we supporting individuals by actions, not just by words, not just by written documents, by action? Are we supportive? What is the environment in that workplace? Okay. Protection. Ensure that the policies are not just documented but shared very well. Okay. So foster an anti-bullying culture, address risks and protective factors within that environment, and then support, offer support. If an individual would need to go and seek help, what is the chain? Do they go to the champion first? Do they go to the supervisor? Do they go direct to the HR? Even if it's a complaint probably about a supervisor, what is a referral pattern? What kind of support are they given? Are they allowed to actually go and seek help where getting a mental health day, for example, is concerned? What if they don't have any more leave days and you can clearly see this person is indeed suffering? What next? Are we able to really support them? And all this has to come in from a space of understanding. Yeah, it will foster improved understanding. It will help prevent lots of suicide and also combat stigma. Yeah. As we continue with this conversation, I want you to answer me in the chat box. Between men and women, who are more likely to die by suicide? And between men and women, who are likely to attempt suicide more? Between those two, answer me in the chat box. And then I'll ask you another one as we end this conversation. Okay, please answer me. So, organizational intervention, we borrow from the World Economic Forum because these are the steps that have been documented and put down. One is to increase awareness. So thank you, Zipporah, for actually really going out of your way to look for me, to get the connection all the way from Esther to talk to our colleagues to have this session for the 2930 of you. Okay, so awareness of the workplace environment and how it can be adapted to promote better mental health for different types of employees. Very, very important. Secondly, is learning from the motivations of organizational leaders and employees who have taken action. There are so many other good models that we can use, not reinventing wheels, but by being aware of what other companies who have taken action have done. I did go to give a talk in an organization that really surprised me. This organization has a fully fitted gym. Nobody is allowed to eat at their desk. You're not allowed to eat at your desk. They have a garden and they have a gazebo. You have to go. Everybody needs to step out of their working desk during lunch hour. Imagine that. There's a trainer who comes in the morning and in the evening. You have to choose the session that you're going to engage in, whether it's a morning or an evening. I found that very mind-blowing. On top of that, they have compulsory 5-day consecutive mental wellness days. Can you imagine? And you have to take it. And you know what? This was part of their balance scorecard. So if you don't do it, you fail. Overall, it affects your bonus. That's how serious some people have gotten, or let me not say serious to mean that others are not serious. I'm just trying to say that prioritizing the employee's mental wellness has reached to that level. So understanding the opportunities and needs of individual employees in helping to develop better policies for the workplace. Awareness of sources of support where people can find help. And I'll be talking more about that. So good practice and implementation, we are looking at informing staff. Sometimes you can have good policies, you can have all these provisions, but nobody has an idea. Yeah, there is no, somehow the communication, there is some form of breakdown. Okay, ensure that there are ways for people to be able to develop themselves, be able to recognize and reward people. Value, show value. If you show your team that you value them, then actually they are challenged to go and beyond, and not just as HRs, but also teaching the supervisors and people horizontally how to value each other. So rewarding as well. And then having an EAP. If you are a representative of a team here and your organization does not have an employee assistant program, I'm going to put the leader's number on this chat box, or if she's hearing me, please put your number on this chat box. This is actually what is going to be a game changer. The employee assistant program is not just to protect employees only, but also to protect organizations only. So mental wellness is holistic. Yeah, remember, 3 times likely. So very, very important. How can we be able to do this? By practicing self-care. This is the WHO definition of self-care, but I like to say, and allow me to repeat that if you've heard this before, I like to say that you must get to a point where you actually, in your mind, you record that you're worth it as an individual, because we take care of things that we think are worth. That's why we show up to work, because you know that work is paying my bills. Or that's why we show up for our children and for our partners, because we value those people. So if you have the same value on yourself, then you're able to take care of yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot even give love if you don't know what that means for yourself. That's another story about love and what that is, or happiness and what that is. So self-care is key. And contrary to popular belief, the myths around self-care is that one, self-care is selfish. That is a myth. No. You have to take care of yourself. All this time you've been showing up for everybody, and especially HRs. You guys are equal. to us in terms of the services that we give. You guys are actually a demographic that needs national security. Yeah, because you're the sponge. Imagine dealing with all the people of different traits, different personalities. You're constantly absorbing, and constantly trying to figure out the best way to balance, the best way for things to go into place. So you really need to take care of yourself. So myth one, self-care is selfish. That's a myth. Myth two, they say that self-care is only for people with mental health issues. That's a myth. Okay, self-care is for everyone. Don't wait until you get a mental issue. Myth three, they say that self-care is it's an all or nothing. No, it's not an all or nothing. If you have just one practice of self-care, you're better off than the individual who has zero. But if you have 3 routines, 3 practices, 4 practices, you're also better off, because this is what builds resilience. And resilience is that ability to bounce back from adversity. Mental wellness is actually around self-care. Mental wellness is around emotional resilience, physical resilience, because like we said, stress is going to be there. But what determines between the person who will survive, survival for the fittest, between the person who will survive and the ones who will not survive, is mental and resilience. That is built by self-care. Imagine that, okay? So it's not just one thing. It's physical self-care, psychological self-care, emotional, spiritual, personal, and professional. This is very important. I specifically chose this wheel. Usually as we teach this, we just write them down. But I like this wheel because it focuses you. If you're lost and you're wondering, that's a professional self-care, what will I be doing? Here are good examples. This includes also challenging your employees to keep building in terms of skills, building each other. Here are also other good ideas where self-care is concerned. But at the top of the list, you must engage in physical activity. You must be cognizant of the things that you put in your body, because the gut is the second brain. So that's very important. How else can we do this? 2 things. The bigger question that is usually there is like, how will I know how I'm doing? Yeah, maybe physically the headache is there, but sometimes stress is intangible. Okay, number 1 is brief screeners. We have embedded brief screeners on our website. Jedida, please share the super link that we have of brief screeners. It has burnout, it has depression, anxiety, trauma, alcohol, and substance. It is there. You need to keep checking on yourself. And why are we saying this? Because you want to know, since I experienced that grief, since I had a fight with my spouse, since my child is not talking to me, since I have an issue with my boss and workload is a lot, am I okay? And you're asking yourself, am I really okay? Where am I at? Then you can engage in a brief screener. It is confidential. Number 1, it is free of charge. Secondly, and you can do this from the comfort of your home. The results are instant. And there's a provision that says, if you'd like a psychologist to reach out to you, then leave your number. If you don't leave your number, we would never know. In fact, that place for name, write K. Yeah? Write L or A. You don't have to actually write your actual name if you don't want to, because this is for you. And the good thing about brief screeners, you can keep doing them over and over. You can say every quarter, I'll check on my mental wellness. I'll take a patient health questionnaire to see where am I. I'll take the assessment for anxiety, because squeezy silali, I'm too anxious. I get from 0 to 100. I over worry too much. My mind is going to worst case scenario. Maybe I need to check on where am I. Yeah, is it mild? Is it moderate? Is severe? Because if it's mild, it's okay. That's part of ups and downs. And lastly, what else can you do? Use the toll-free line. Maybe there is so much stigma in people accessing care. But if you're in a crisis, if you know somebody is in a crisis, give them the toll-free line. Anonymous, free of charge. Talk to a professional 24. This is available 24 hours. It's available 7 days. in a week. This is a toll-free line, 0800 220 000. Okay, so allow me to look at the chat box and see what people have talked about. I'm trying to go up a little bit. I can see some people who are on my side trying to ask to mute. Oh no, was I unclear? So somebody has said, I feel like addiction is undoubtedly tied to what you're speaking of. Absolutely. Allow me to stop share so I can address you very well. You can hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can
Deborah?
hear you. Yeah, we can hear
Oh,
you. Yes,
sorry. It's
loud
because
and
I
clear.
saw somebody had written on the chat that I was breaking.
No, loud and clear.
So somebody has said, I feel like addiction is undoubtedly tied to what you're speaking about. I agree 100% because even before we get to addiction, usually when we are under stress, when you don't know what's going on, and let me say that sometimes the present stressors are not even the main issue. Sometimes it's the issues that you have gone through right from childhood, but now you've reached a saturation level and your brain does not know how to protect you anymore. Yeah, then you kind of snap. That's why we see somebody who was very cooperative, very okay, completely, they're not themselves. So usually you look for, how do I cope? And some people will have positive coping mechanisms like the self-care we've talked about, but others will engage in negative coping mechanisms. So you drink, you smoke, you chew cut, or whatever it is, engage in too much sex, social media addiction, you're on your phone scrolling, so you're not even sleeping. That's how addiction builds up, because your brain records, okay, so if I drink, is stress inatulia. Yeah. So tomorrow, when you have another stressor, then you're going to be tempted to drink again. And that's how addiction builds, because your brain now completely becomes dependent. And the other thing about addiction is to always be true to yourself. You know your family history. And family history goes to both your parents, their parents, and all the children and their children. That's how far family history goes. These are the conversations we also need to have with our children and tell them, hey, okay, our family, we have an issue with alcohol, so please don't drink. Or we have an issue with mental illness, please don't smoke weed because it's going to trigger a mental illness, right? Somebody has said that women are likely to attempt suicide, men commit suicide. Another person has said women have high suicide rates. Another person has said, I feel more men would eventually die of some substance abuse related issue. We actually have more men we have more men admitted in hospital because of alcohol and other substance related issues as opposed to women. However, we are seeing the numbers changing today. We have higher number of women than any other time in history in regards to alcohol and substance abuse. Okay, so even though there is a gender the gender difference, we can't ignore that we also have many more women who are coming in. Somebody else has said the boy child. Another person has said men commit suicide the most since they don't share a lot and women do. Another person has said, thanks, Gadoni. HR, we are the sponge and we don't have self-care. Who is a HR for the HR professionals? Where do we go for assistance? Brief screeners, toll-free line, engaging in self-care, and having a conversation with a therapist. You don't need to wait for clinical symptoms to come and see. We come from a wellness perspective. come because ile case deal nayo, what somebody told you has shocked you so much, and you don't even know how to remove yourself from that situation, okay? Because we are healers. That's what we are, even HRs. I know HRs who have even been so worried, they went to try and look for the employee to visit them in their home or even want to host them, because we are healers. That's how we are. And then there are other questions. But anyway, before I get to this question that has been asked, so when we're looking at suicide and the gender difference, number one, women attempt more suicide than men. The number of cases you'll get all the way from high school. This girl took pills, this girl cut their wrist, this girl wrote a suicide note, this girl threatened. You know, you'll hear a lot of cases, and even a lot more attempts where women are concerned in terms of suicide. However, we have more men dying from suicide. In fact, as I'm saying that, I want us to change the language. Nowadays, we say died by suicide. We don't say commit suicide, because we are trying to decriminalize it. It's not a crime. The same way we don't say that person committed diabetes or cancer. You know, we are not making it a crime. We are saying they died, because suicide is a symptom of a bigger underlying crisis, of a diagnosis that has not yet been done. Or even some people, you know, they know the diagnosis, but they have been struggling for long. So we have more men. We definitely have more men who are dying by suicide. And this is also, it has a connotation to culture, yeah? Because we say men are strong, men are pillars, they're the providers, they're the protectors, you know, that macho-ness. So when a man is choosing a means, they will also go for the hardest means, the one that they are sure it's going to work. So that's why it's so critical. If you hear a child, a boy, or even a man, or even an employee, if they threaten suicide, you need to take that seriously. And threatening suicide is not saying that, oh, I'm going to hang myself today. Usually it's in a very subtle way. Somebody says, you know, I'm tired. In fact, I had somebody today was telling me, I wish I could go somewhere so far and just disappear. So it's exactly like that. That's how it's expressed. So let's look for those little subtle things that are said quietly. Okay, so those are the statistics. Just for fun, as I answer other questions, just for fun, for those of you here who are parents, I want you guys to answer the question, between quality and quantity, which one is better where spending time with your child is concerned? We are here to learn about wellness. And your home is also important, because if things are not well at home, you can't be well at work. So there's a very good question here. How do you deal with workplace stress, depression, when resignation is not an option? Well, I can confidently say I'm not sure about what you mean. If resignation is not an option, I would like to think that if you want to leave a job, you can leave a job. Unless you mean you can't resign because this is your source of income, and therefore you don't have the luxury of just waking up and resigning. But the best way to deal with stress is to figure out what is the root cause of that stress. And then there are three things. One, is it something that you need to adapt to? For example, if there is a change in management, you'll find that it's very stressful. You know, when a new culture is coming in, new team is coming in. So do you need to adapt to the stressor? Is it something that is avoidable? Can you avoid it? If not, is it something that you need to accept? You remember how hard it was, you know, when we were told to wear a mask. You could almost feel like you're not breathing. But when people started being arrested, then somehow we kind of adapted it, and we accepted this is our reality, and we started wearing masks. Then when the government came back and said, okay, you guys can remove your masks, then we were back again confused. I was one of them. I was still going to town with a mask for a very long time. So I'm just trying to say, usually you need to figure out, is this something that I can adapt? Can I avoid this stress? Or do I need to accept? Because there are things that we need to accept. For example, if you have, if you're a caregiver and you're dealing with, such a bad stress in terms of caring for somebody either with a mental illness or with any other illness, what is it that you need to do? That, you need to figure out how to process and accept, okay? If, for example, we are talking about work stress, and there is always stress that comes from a certain boss or from a certain employee, you need to adapt and accept that's who they are, or is there a way that you can actually avoid so that you don't keep getting into those altercations? So you need to also make an informed decision, but ultimately engage in self-care, because the more time you actually put for self-care, then the less time you spend ruminating about work stress. Yeah, you have a provision for other things in your life to be done. So somebody else has said, oh, sorry, it was a thanks to somebody else. Is there any other question, or do I go to trying to talk about? I can't see. Please tell me, what are your thoughts on quality versus quantity? Or you can put on your mask and ask me a question directly. Joy, I think you want to say something.
No. I'm trying to join.
Okay, it's okay. Do we have any person with a question in regards to today's discussion? Anyone? Okay, I can see somebody is talking about highlighting coping mechanisms. Is there any other question? So one of the best coping mechanism is physical activity. That's the best coping mechanism, because physical activity is the only way to ensure that every individual the brain of an individual is able to perform optimally. That means that there's a good production of dopamine. This is what is responsible for that feel good. There is a good production of serotonin. That is what will ensure that you sleep. When you're so stressed, actually you can't sleep. And then there is a reduction of cortisol. This is a hormone that is produced when you're stressed. So EOP, it goes down. So physical is usually at the top of the list. And then 2 is to look for healthy ways to be able to express your emotion. One of the key things that I like to ask my patients or my clients to do is to start journaling. Yeah, studies show that there is so much power between pen and paper, not journaling on phone, pen and paper. It helps empty both your heart of that overwhelming feeling, but also your mind. So journaling is very, very important. Me time and quiet time. It's very important. When you go to the house and you're so stressed, just take a break, or go straight to your room and just lock yourself for 5 minutes. Take a deep breath before you come out to engage with the children. Okay? Practice quiet time. Grounding techniques. Are you able to be present in the moment? Because if you have grounding techniques, then you're able to calm your mind down. And if you calm your mind down, then you're in a much better space to actually be able to think through things and to increase your focus. Eating, the gut is the second brain. So eating healthy as well. Having constant checkups, both mental and physical, are very, very important. And obviously not engaging is in negative coping mechanisms. So Mohammed, but generally self-care is what is key. That is what is key for wellness. All right, allow me to hand over to Zipporah. Unless there are any questions that would be coming, I'll be addressing that.
Thank you, Kadone.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I would just like to get one clarification concerning the mental checkups. Huh? Hello?
Sorry, I can hear you, Nelly. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I'm asking a question about the mental checkups. Now, concerning any other checkup, you can check the pressure and check those ones we can know. How do you now check the mental? I mean, how do you do the mental checkup?
Okay, that's a good thing.
Yes, because in the first place, if really you have a challenge, you might be having a challenge, but you don't know.
Yes.
And it will be so difficult for you to now go to a doctor and then you start saying that you check my mental, or how do you even check? Me, kindly help us there because that's what we would like to know. And even personally, I would like to know, how do you do it?
Okay, fantastic. So I have shared what we call a super link. This link has all the assessments that I'm talking about. So one of the best ways to do a mental checkup, if you don't have any specific thing you want to check on, whether it's anxiety or depressive symptoms or burnout, I like to say is use the patient health questionnaire. The patient health questionnaire is written PHQ-9. So the PHQ-9 helps you to know where are you at. So don't wait until you see symptoms. Just have the checkup just because it's Tuesday afternoon. You say, man, nah, by the way, I wonder how I am. Let me do this assessment. So it will ask you a series of questions and then you will answer. And then once you finish that, it will give you a result and say, this is your score, and this is what this score means. With a score of 2, it means that you're experiencing mild symptoms. This is within the normal range. Keep up with your self-care. So that's how to keep checking on yourself.
Okay, thank you. Any
Maybe
other member?
I can also
Yes.
tell you something else. There are what we call 5 clinical red flags.
Yes.
And those red flags usually help us know this person, is it the problem they have, is it physical or is it mental? Okay, is it, and mental I mean, is it that the brain is overwhelmed, not a mental illness? A mental illness, you need a very, it's much more complicated to diagnose somebody. It's not just one thing. So number 1 is an interruption in sleep patterns. So there are people who will go to bed, toss and turn, then usingizi nakuja midnight, 2 a.m. There are people who will go sleep, wake up at 12, they can't sleep until 5 a.m. Then there are those ones who are asleep, but your brain is awake. So you can hear everything that is going on around in your home. And then there are those ones, even if they sleep for 10 hours, you still wake up, you're so tired, you're so fatigued. You don't even know what happened to that night. So an interruption in sleep patterns is the number 1 clinical red flag that something is definitely wrong. You're not okay. 2 is eating patterns. So you will hear people say, sikukula jana usiku, and even now I'm not hungry. Okay, so some people will skip meals, they will not eat, or some people will eat too much. And then the third one is a mood. Mood is the only black and white one. You can really see if somebody is not okay. Even you yourself, you can be like, I'm not okay. Nowadays, I'm so sad, I'm low, I'm withdrawn, I don't even want to answer my calls. WhatsApp zimeja, you've never answered them. You don't go out anymore in terms of the social gatherings that you used to go. In the workplace, you can be able to see this person has, nowadays they're so easy. But also the other side of it, Nelly, is that people also become very irritable. Everything small. Kama ni kudrive karibu chapane na watu kwa barabara, they're just complaining. Yet that's how matatus and tuk-tuks and motorbikes are. You've known that all your life. Yeah, but you're still there going crazy because of something that they did. The 4th one is bowel movements. So if all of a sudden you have loose stool and it's not associated to anything that you ate, if all of a sudden you 2, 3, 4 days you've not gone for a long call, you're constipating, that's a problem. Something is going on. And last but not least, because we are adults here, I like to say, is libido. When you're very, very stressed, very overwhelmed, then you find your libido has gone down. You're disinterested in sex. For some percentage of people, the libido goes high. And at that point, hypersexuality, somebody is likely to, if it's, for example, in a marriage situation, they're likely to step out. Yeah, because you kind of feel that it might be better outside, but the problem is where you are. So those are the 5 clinical red flags. And my question is, if you've written those 5 things down, what is your score? Is it 1/5? Is it 3/5? Is it 5/5? Okay, so the more red flags you have, then the more of an indication that your brain is overwhelmed. Something is not right. And the point of knowing is also to do something about it. So you find that if you're not sleeping, you need to figure out a way for you to sleep, because the brain is the engine of the body. It needs to rest so that it can be able to send and receive information correctly. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Has anybody tried to click on the link? Please let me know on the chat box if it's opened. These are self-assessment tools that you can be able to use for yourself.
Kadoni, I think, thank you so much for that session. Very interesting session. I'm trying to put on my video, but I can't, but I think it's okay. I think, let me ask a question, and not even a question, but a clarification, that mental health is equally as important as physical fitness. How do I ensure that I have that kind of mental health equivalent to that of physical fitness? Like in the physical fitness, maybe I can wake up in the morning, do some exercises, and then come back in the evening, do some exercise. So how do I ensure that that kind of fitness, or rather exercise, is instilled in the mental health?
So, first of all, health is holistic. Health has both physical and mental. So if you're doing something good for your physical health, it means that it's also affecting you positively where your mental health is concerned. Remember, physically you can do exercise, but the beneficiary of that exercise is the brain, because the brain is able to perform optimally. It's able to help you feel good about yourself. The brain is able to reduce the stress hormone, and then the brain is able to increase the serotonin, which is what helps you sleep. So the challenge is usually, what is it that you're doing? So physically, what are you doing? But looking at psychological only, then we are talking about your thought processes, because we are indeed a product of our thoughts. So if your thoughts are negative, your feelings are in line with that negative thoughts, and then your actions are in line with that thought, and then you have a behavior. For example, if you wake up and the first thought in your mind is, oh my God, it's Monday, I don't want to go to work, you had a long weekend, that thought is there. The feeling you'll get is lethargic. You don't really want to go to work. The action is, let me snooze, wacha nilalelale kidogo nione. Or you're even wondering, I send an email, I say that I was well, who can I call to give me a sick note? Now your brain has already started thinking of other ways, but it's thinking of other negative ways, not other helpful ways, because the thought was negative. And let me tell you true to it. If you 5 work today, tomorrow you go late, today, tomorrow, you formed a new behavior. Now you'll be entering at 8:30. Then you'll extend that. Now you'll be entering at 9. So thoughts. Every time you have a negative thought, capture that negative thought and counter it with a positive thought. That's what cognitive behavioral therapy is. What we teach people in terms of restructuring what mindsets are. Is it a growth or a fixed mindset? Emotions, are you able to tell what kind of emotion do I have? Yeah. Are you able to understand that because I have this kind of emotion, what do I need to do so that I can laugh, watch something? What is it that you need to do to distress, just to remove that negative emotion from yourself? So psychological, emotional, and spiritual. Studies show that people with a spiritual anchorage have better quality of life. Now, I know as a country, there's a lot of things going on. Yeah. And most of us, when we hear spiritual, we think of religion. No, I'm not talking about a pastor or a church, a mosque or a temple. No, that's religion. I'm talking about spirituality. Spirituality is a belief system in a higher power. A belief system in a higher power. That's where hope is harnessed through spirituality. The big question of who am I? Am I in the right place? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Is this what I was called to do? What's my purpose of life? Those questions are in spirituality. Getting in touch with nature, that is in spirituality. Being content deep in your heart, that is in spirituality. So also harnessing that is a very, very important.
Beautiful. Thank you for having me. So much. It's our pleasure, sweetie.
Here's some two charts.
Welcome, Jessica. Mom. I'm Jessica, and I'm the mom.
Oh yeah, somebody has made a comment. Yeah, it's true. You know, we are human beings, so you're going to get negative thoughts here and there. And Mohammed is saying that thoughts are not reality. That's absolutely true. And I also like to say, your feelings are not facts. You could feel that way, but is it a fact? The same way thoughts are not necessarily the reality. So keep catching yourself and keep correcting yourself. Keep restructuring your thought process over and over and over.
I buy a present to thank you for all your hard work. Maybe
Okay.
just
Nelly.
about his school and homework. That's very kind. You guys have already done enough.
Thank you, Katoni. I no longer have any question unless if any other members still have a question, you can proceed.
That's actually done. Here you go. I'll just freeze to death then.
Okay, is Patrick Mayo in the house? Mayo, are you in?
Yes, I'm in.
Yeah, you can take it over.
Hello?
Yes, Mayo.
I'm in a very noisy place. I don't know if I can take it. Yes.
Oh, okay. Is Patrick Ngeny or Kimuta in the house?
Neighbor. The next day at school, I was studying for example.
Nelly, maybe you can conclude the meeting, yeah?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, and we appreciate very much because of the informative teachings that we've had today, and I believe members are satisfied. Thank you, Katoni. We've learned, and we would like to still learn more and more, and also assist because in most cases, we are all affected, be it not individual, our families, and all our members. We need to assist each other. We appreciate that you had this time to be with us as the North Rift. On behalf of the officials and our members of the North Rift, we say thank you and come back again. And if possible, please, we request that you come physically so that you also see our place. Thank you very much. I think I will request our chair if he still has anything to tell us before we conclude. Welcome, Zipporah.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. Maybe I'll give some few minutes to Jedida. Jedida, are you still in the house? Yeah, Jedida is in. Jedida, please, can you say hi? Yeah, Jedida is one of the Chiromo Hospital group, and I really appreciate Gadoni and Jedida because I think I've not seen them physically, but we've been meeting virtually. So I must say that I appreciate the relationship between North Rift and Chiromo group. I don't think I have much to say, but mine is just to say thank you to all members. Thank you for actually purposing to attend this session. I've learned a lot. I've listened to Gadoni, and I am even trying to fix a date with her in July. So I think North Rift, we are blessed. I'm sure she will actually come physically. So I'm trying to fix a date with the leadership of the North Rift and the Chiromo group so that we can have a physical meeting. And you will ask them a lot of questions. You will explain to them. You will have your personal meetings with them. And if you really want to have their contacts, I will share. They will share a tool. I know they have a tool, so they will share a tool. You can test yourself emotionally, mentally. Yeah, there are so many tools. So they will share and we will share to all the members. I don't think I have much. Maybe I'll give this opportunity to Charles Kimutai to say a word of thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chair, for this opportunity. As I join you in thanking our presenter, Madam Gadoni Mbugwa, thank you so much. As my good friend Nelly had said, we are all affected in one way or another. Today, lessons will go a long way in ensuring homes and our workplaces. To my colleagues, thank you so much for attending this webinar. Welcome again. Chair, I'm done.
Yeah, yes, maybe I volunteer to close with a word of prayer.
What was she talking about? Haven't they gone to the
Charles, can you pray for us?
So it's okay.
It's okay, yes.
It's okay. Let's pray. Father God Almighty, we come before you at this time of the day, O Lord. O Lord, we want to thank you for the wonderful session we have had, O Lord. All the lessons, O Lord, that we've learned, we want to commit them unto your able hands, O Lord. As we end this meeting and depart to our homes, O Lord, we want to ask for journey mercies. I pray this short prayer, believing and trusting in the name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you
So
all.
thank you so much.
All the best.
We'll see you in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Bye, Charles.
Bye, everyone.
Gadoni.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Zipporah.
home this whole time? Do you know how many times I tried calling you? What is going on with our mom? Sorry, that's not a question I can missing with no proof. I don't see that working out. And I'm not done with you guys yet. In fact, I just started. With that, he pushed me off of her and walked out of the room. Dylan and I immediately went to the police station and reported everything. They sent out a search team to look for Mom. Then did an investigation on me. And to our shock, we discovered Minnie wasn't an exchange student at all. She faked her application. She wasn't even from Japan. She lived in LA. So she's just this stranger who came into our lives and made Mom go missing. Who is this girl? What's she want from us? I don't know, but that chick gave me weird vibes from the start. She's obviously out to get us. We stayed at the police station for several hours, waiting for any news. And finally, the police came back with Mom. Oh my God, what happened to you? It was Queen. She said she had to show me something important. Then drove me into the middle of the woods and threw me out of the car. She just left me there without my phone. I was just looking for forest princess found me. But don't worry, I'm all right now. Just then, the policeman walked in with Queenie. Looks like Mommy made her way out of the woods. You're a monster, Queenie. We know everything. How you kidnapped Mom, how you faked her exchange student application. Who are you and why are you trying to ruin our lives? Because you ruined my life first. When you was 10 years old, your dad called my parents at a phone number and he disappeared. And we ended up having to live on the street. My mom had a mental breakdown. Your dad is a criminal, and I finally tracked him down because I wanted him and his perfect family to suffer the way I did. I was speechless. I knew Dad had been a jerk, but he was a crook too. He was admitted into juvie, but we insisted that the police look into her family's case. And 2 days later, the police came to us with some news. It turned out that Dad was part of a group of conmen that had been going around in disguise all over the country for years, scamming people. And as soon as Dad got home, they arrested him. He kicked and screamed and shouted at us to do something, but we didn't. Part of me almost felt relieved to see him go. I'm so sorry, you guys. I never knew much about your father. He always told me a lot to my business and kept everything a secret from me. I stopped asking. That's why I was never happy in our marriage. He was the worst. He never cared much about you or us. He did everything for us, Mom, and I really appreciate you. I'm so sorry if I looked down on you for being messy or childish or whatever. Now, come on, let's go talk to the police to get Queen's family help in this situation. Be grateful for the life you were given. Every day is a gift. That's a lesson. Hi, I'm Mia from LA. Please like and subscribe. Growing up, it was just me and my mom. I was a famous photographer working for brands and celebrities. So you think with a photographer parent, I have a beautifully documented childhood. Well, you'd be wrong. I hardly had any pictures because mom was always too busy. And I was raised by nannies. Sure, she gave me everything, but she couldn't make much time for me. She did try by setting up the studio at home, but once when she was in here, I stepped into her dark room, switched on the light, and all her photos were destroyed. That made me and She threw away all my markers now to try out. Silk shoes all over my bed to make it look like me. And all my favorite shoes to a stray dog. She would color off. Parker would tag along with us everywhere. And she'd glare at me and make comments about her friends and Susan about earshot. If you don't stop annoying me, I'll tell Susan to make you leave. She's my mom. If I leave, she leaves with me. Well, she likes me better. And if you're on pace for her to spend time with you, you're just a jock to her. You don't really thought about it that way, but it was true. That didn't mean she liked me any less, did it? Soon enough, Mom got Parker into my school. I was the top student in class, but she replaced me quickly. Her mental math was faster. Her science projects were more inventive, and her creativity as an English teacher gushing. Usually, the person with the best story just didn't want her here. It's time for my show. Please leave. There's a TV in your mom's room. Watch it there. It's not your place. It's Hollywood too. What's that supposed to mean? I thought my mom was like family. That makes me family too. Just deal with it. I dumped her bowl of popcorn on her head. She pounced on me, and as I was pushing her off, I sent her crashing into the table, knocking off a huge vase. Susan came running in at the noise, and she went back because I heard her. How could you do this? You know better. Mom, no, Parker, I told you. You have to be perfect. She can go back to the way things were. You get to go to a great school and live in a nice place. But if you can't appreciate that, then we leave today. I've never seen Susan so mad. And I didn't want her to quit. Also, I felt a little bad for her. Wait, it was an accident. I tripped, and she was just helping me up. Susan calmed down. And after that day, things started getting better between me and her. Once we both backed off from annoying each other, we realized that we actually had a lot in common, especially our love for writing. And over time, we became like siblings. We were constantly competing and arguing over dumb things. But we certainly didn't hate each other anymore. By the time we reached high school, Mom had expanded her studios to several locations.